What's going on, Michigan DECA? My name is Connor Rezit. I'm your Vice President of Business Partnerships, and today we've got a great one for you. We're going to be going over some test preparation and competition preparation just to get you ready for the state conference that is rapidly approaching. We have with us today a three-time state champion and three-time ICDC qualifier, top five ICDC Skyline DECA president, and of course, he's a freshman right now at Harvard. And finally, he's one of my great friends, Ronak Ailawadi. How about you give yourself a little introduction, Ronak?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you guys and super excited. DECO is a core part of high school. It was the biggest thing that I participated in, and I think it really helped me get to where I am today. I first joined DECA at the beginning of high school. I knew I was interested in business and going to join the business magnet program at my school. And DECA was all everyone was talking about. It was the biggest club at our school. So I wanted to see what all the hype was about.
That's awesome. Well, let's get right into it, Ronik. So my first question for you is, right now we're 2 weeks out from the state conference. What does your weekly preparation look like leading up to it?
Yeah, for sure. So I think obviously the test, if you're in a test event, is very, very important. You should have most of the test prep done by 2 weeks before and just putting the final touches on that. That's really something that you should start leading up to it. But if you're not, then just cram those practice tests in. Michigan DECA has a lot of practice tests online, as well as DECA has some online as well. So make sure you know all of those. Take a practice test every couple of days and make sure you understand all the concepts you don't might not know. As far as for if you're in a written, make sure you're memorizing your presentation and what you're going to say. You don't have to have every word down, but you should have all the ideas you want to convey down in a general script. You shouldn't be stuttering. You shouldn't be using filler words, and you need to make sure you're hitting all your performance indicators. As far as the role play, you need to be running through practice role plays over and over again, ensuring that you're comfortable with the setting, especially with performance indicators you might not be used to seeing. And obviously, the real prep is starting a little bit before that, but making sure you really put aside a couple hours a day to really focus on the test prep and then whatever your event is, running through actual simulations of it.
For sure. And Ronik, touching on test preparation really quick, I remember back in our Skyline DECA days together, you were an exam whiz to say the least. So do you have any tips for the members about how to study for the exam or also how not to get burned out from studying for the exam?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing I used at first was DECA Plus, and DECA Plus has these exam blueprints on the page. And what those do is they have the breakdown of how many questions go to each category. So, for example, it would say like 5 questions in business law and 14 questions in marketing, for example. And so that can really give you a pinpoint of where you need to focus your studying. What I also used to study was an actual DECA marketing textbook, which says on the cover like it's aligned with the precision exams, which is what the exams you'll be taking for the conference are. And so if you can go through that book and take notes and understand that, you're in a great position. It does take a bit of time, but it's definitely something you could start now and get through by the conference if you need to. Make sure you're taking notes as you go through the book and then put those notes into an AI like ChatGPT and have it quiz you on those notes and make questions for you so you're really prepared and really understand all of those concepts. Another thing is that DECA posts every performance indicator that they will ever use on the DECA website for every single career cluster. So it takes a while to go through. There's probably 40 or 50 pages, but it has every single performance indicator. And if you have the time to really understand every single performance indicator on there, you'll be seeing everything familiar when you actually get to states.
For sure, Ronak. Thank you for touching on all that. I really love your AI approach. We all know that AI is a new thing and it can be used for good. So that's something I utilize too. I have it come up with practice tests for me, flashcards, everything like that. So it's a great tool to use, and I wouldn't hesitate using it at all for the members. But this year, something new coming to Michigan DECA is testing at the state conference will be on site rather than prior to competition online. So it'll be taken at the state conference on paper. So Ronak, this is just like ICDC. Do you have any tips on preparing for this or what to expect coming into the testing room?
So it's a good preparation for ICDC, and I think it being on paper actually gives you an advantage because you can write on the paper and underline those key phrases for the question. It's important to note that one word can make an answer choice wrong, so you really can look at every word better, in my opinion, on paper than on the computer. So that's an advantage. Make sure you have a watch to keep track of time because On the online one, they have the timer. I'm not sure if they'll have that for the paper one. So make sure you're keeping track of time for that. And really, I think writing on the paper and using the space they give you is an advantage that you get from having the test in person.
Very insightful. So, Ronak, there's a lot of misconceptions about DECA testing, preparation, what to do regarding it. So, what is one thing that you think people waste their time on when it comes to preparation that doesn't really help?
I think they don't realize that everything is part of the whole. So once you have one part down, they keep doing it. I think the test is undervalued, actually. For me, my strength was always the testing compared to the presentation. And that helped me because the test really can be the difference between you going to ICDC or staying home. So I think people need to focus more on the test. It sounds like it's only 30% of the grade, but that's a significant amount when you compare that. Everyone else is going to be pretty solid at the presentation aspect of it. So that's really where you can set yourself apart.
All right, so thank you, Ronak, for giving us just a little in-depth on how you prepare for competition, things you do to get ready for it. But let's talk execution strategy for a minute. So, do you have a role play blueprint you followed? Anything that you do, like a list that you go in order for during your 10-minute preparation time?
So obviously, I know my performance indicators because I looked at the DECA list of performance indicators. So I'm confident going in. Once I actually get the physical role play in the prep room, I skim the situation really, really quickly and write down a simple overview. And then I write down all of the performance indicators verbatim because when you go into the room with the judge, you don't have the performance indicators anymore. You have to give that back. So if you don't have the performance indicators written down, then you might not know what to talk about. So ensure you have all the performance indicators written down. And then at the beginning, when you're talking to the judge, introduce yourself and then give a brief roadmap or overview of what you're going to be talking about so the judge knows what to expect. And then I try as best as possible to go through the performance indicators in order because it's easier for the judge to follow, to understand what you're talking about there. And then I try to spend about 1 to 2 minutes on each performance indicator. And also, the closing is very, very important. You talk about why your solution is the best and the benefits of implementing your solution and what the future could look like if the business and the role play implemented your solution.
Yeah, so Ronak, I think we can both agree that once you're walking into the competition room, the prep room, there's lots of stress, lots of people running around, lots of uncertainty of when you're going to get called up. So, what's your best way to manage your stress while in the prep room?
You have to just realize that stress is very normal and every other person in your event is also going to have that same stress. So if you prepared well, if you know your performance indicators going in, if you studied hard, then you just need to lean into that and believe in yourself that you know what's going to come. And then in 10 minutes after your role play is done, everything is done and you don't need to worry about it at all. So I think stress is very natural. Maybe bring some water in case you get nervous, but I think it's something you can embrace instead of being scared of.
That's a great way to look at it, and I think that's can be really beneficial for all of the members. But let's talk about now what happens once you get in front of the judge. So my first question is, how do you make your fake business, your role play scenario, feel like a real business? How do you really make it feel unique and real to the judge?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think you really need to go into the detail with the business. It shouldn't just be like a big idea. You need to explain how it's going to work. And by the time you're done with the presentation, you need to think, am I saying all the information needed to actually make this business happen? So you really need to use numbers and timelines and be detailed with those and really just show that you've really thought about the logistics of the idea. Another big thing is to be realistic. I see a lot of people have for startup events huge numbers and huge amounts of revenue, but like a new business probably isn't going to be making $100 million in 5 years because most businesses don't make money for the first few years. So that's okay to say that you're going to lose money the first few years. It actually makes it more realistic. So focusing on both the positives and the negatives and the strengths and weaknesses of your business allows the judge to have a better gauge of your understanding of the material and the content.
For sure. And also, Ronak, once you're in there, it's we can both agree it's a stressful situation, sitting one-on-one or one-on-two with the judge. What's your best way to seem confident even if you're a little stressed out?
When you're nervous, you tend to speak a little bit fast. So try to slow down a little bit. Ensure you're more animated when you're speaking and don't be afraid to pause when you're speaking too. And even if internally you're super, super nervous, all you have to do is make the judge think that you know what you're talking about and be confident. And if you don't know the answer to a question the judge asks you, that's okay. Just walk the judge through your thinking, talk about like the end goal, the challenges that you'll have getting to that end goal, and then the potential solutions that you can implement to get to that goal.
For sure. I think your point about being animated is fabulous too. These judges are seeing so many different competitors throughout the day and showing up like you're excited, like you want to be there. It's super important in making sure that they remember you when they're grading the papers. But what do you think that judges really want to see and what they really want to reward at the top level?
Everyone knows their performance indicators pretty well, so that's a baseline. So really, having a lot of energy, being animated, you got to be memorable for the judge. The judge can also tell if you put the work in and you know what you're talking about and you understand it versus you're just putting on a face to say that. So you really need to ensure that you know everything. Then also the judges really value creativity. They're seeing 10 to 12 to maybe even 15 or 20 competitors that they're judging. So you really need to stand out and be within the top two or three to move on through that. So they really value a creative solution, a confident solution, and energy.
Finally, to kind of wrap up our talk about actual competition when you're in the room, how do you hit your performance indicators effectively?
I think not being afraid to be obvious about the performance indicators. What I do is I take a couple keywords from the performance indicator and repeat those out loud. So that signals to the judge that, hey, I'm talking about this performance indicator now. So they can easily follow along. Sometimes they might be a little bit confused by some parts of your solution if you haven't really explained them too well. So that really enables them to follow along really well. I think so incorporating the performance indicators really well is awesome. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, going in each performance indicator for a minute and a half to 2 minutes and really explaining that enables you to get all the full points for that.
For sure. Now let's zoom out a little bit. So, Ronak, the night before your competition, morning of when you wake up, what are you doing to really get in the zone? Do you have a pregame ritual or anything like that?
I mean, I walk around the convention center a little bit, but it's not really a ritual. I think it's really important to make it as normal as possible. It's just an everyday thing that you're doing.
For
You've
sure.
prepped all this time for it. It's just like the prep. There's no need to stress out about it. And I think, making it as normal as possible limits the stress that you have.
I agree. And just trusting your preparation. Trust that you've done everything you can to get to this moment. You've done thorough preparation. You've studied all of your flashcards, you know the performance indicators, and just everything to make yourself feel as confident as possible when you show up. But regarding actual competition day, Ronak, what do you bring to competition? Do you have any essentials that you take with you everywhere at DECA?
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to take your ID. A lot of times they require an ID to check in, so make sure you have that. Obviously, take a watch because during competition, the prep time goes a little bit faster than you might expect. So that enables you to keep track of time and ensure you're able to think of ideas for every performance indicator during the prep time. Also, water is always good and maybe a snack if you get a little bit hungry. If you're doing like two role plays at States, they did when I was there. And then just pencils or pens. I prefer pens actually during prep time because you can write faster with pens. And when you're in a time crunch, it can really be useful.
For sure, I agree with all that. So, Ronak, as a member who's gone to the state conference 4 times, what are some surprises about the conference that a first-time member may not expect?
It's a lot bigger than districts, and it might feel a little bit intimidating at first. And the judges sometimes expect your reasoning to be better and your explanation. But you just have to remember at the end of the day, it's just 10 or 20 minutes that you're presenting, and then it's all done. Not too much to worry about. It can feel a little bit big at first, but remember, just focus on your preparation and you'll be absolutely fine.
All right, and then finally, Ronak, what is by far your favorite part about the state conference?
Oh, by far the opening session. I think it's one of the loudest environments you will ever be in. There's just so much energy. There's like 4 or 5, maybe 6,000 people all in one room screaming as loud as they can. It's really electric, and that's when I first realized, how big DECA is and that it's this amazing thing.
I agree. It's truly an amazing environment to be in and to be at. So I encourage you all to use your time to the fullest, meet new people, make new friends, try new things, and always come up to me or any of the other officers, say hi. We're super excited to be there and we're super excited to meet you. But Ronak, I think that's all the time we have. So thank you so much for hopping on with me and taking the time to share some of your valuable insights. Michigan Decker Ronak is one of the best competitors that we've ever seen. He's always preparing for his tests. He's always prepared for his role plays, and he's really just a down-to-earth guy who knows so much about DECA. So thank you so much for being here, Ronak. And next week, the Monday prior to the state conference, we'll have a great episode planned for you all regarding what to do before competition, kind of just some main information about what to expect when you get there. So thank you again, Ronak. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.